Let me describe someone to you and tell me if this sounds familiar. He's a 32-year-old professional. 5 years ago, he was making $45,000 a year. Today, he makes $95,000. More than double. He's received 3 promotions, 2 significant raises, and an annual bonus. On paper, he's winning. He should feel rich. He should be accumulating wealth, building equity, feeling financially free. Instead, he's more stressed than ever. He has less available cash than when he was making half as much. He's living in an endless cycle of spending everything he earns. When he was making $45,000, he was saving $400 a month. Now with $95,000, he's barely saving $200. He's done everything right. He worked hard, got the promotions, negotiated the raises, climbed the career ladder. He did exactly what you're supposed to do. So why does he feel more trapped now than when he was earning less? Why does doubling your income leave you with less financial freedom? If you've ever gotten a raise and thought, I'm making more than ever, but I feel just as broke, this video is going to make everything click. My name is Mike, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people who earn more money end up being poorer than people who earn less. If you're someone who's climbed in your career, received raises, and still can't figure out why it's still not enough, make sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you out. Here's the thing. We've been sold this story that more money equals a better life. It seems mathematically obvious, right? If you can live comfortably on $50,000, then with $100,000, you should live comfortably and have $50,000 left over to save. Invest and build wealth, it's basic addition. Except that's not what happens. What actually happens is one of the biggest financial bait and switches in the modern economy. And almost nobody talks about it. The term for this phenomenon is the golden handcuffs. And it describes how each salary raise chains you tighter to your job, makes you more dependent on the income, and paradoxically leaves you with less financial freedom than before. People making $40,000 a year frequently have more financial flexibility than those making $120,000. And it's not because they're better with money. It's because they didn't fall into the trap. The trap works like this. Every time you earn more, your expenses automatically expand to match or exceed that new income. And the worst part is that these new expenses aren't temporary. They're fixed commitments, they're chains, they're the golden handcuffs. Let me take you back in time for a second. Because understanding how we got here is crucial to understanding the trap 30 years ago. The average person making $50,000 a year lived in a $100,000 apartment, drove a $15,000 car that they paid cash for or with a small loan. And their monthly fixed expenses were relatively simple: rent or mortgage, basic utilities, food, gas, maybe cable. Their fixed expenses were maybe 60 to 70% of their income. They had margin, they had breathing room, and critically, they had mobility. If they lost their job, they could adjust if they wanted to change careers. They could afford to earn less temporarily. They weren't chained down. Now fast forward to today. The average person making $100,000 a year, how do they live? They live in a $400,000 house with a $2,500 monthly mortgage. They drive a $50,000 SUV with monthly payments of $700, plus another car for their partner, another $500 a month. They have subscriptions to Netflix, Spotify, Disney+, HBO, Apple, Amazon Prime, 3 fitness apps, work software, cloud storage. They have life insurance. More expensive car insurance because the car is more expensive. More expensive home insurance because the house is more expensive. They pay for gardening. House cleaning because they don't have time. They eat out more often because they're tired. Order delivery because it's convenient. Go to Starbucks daily because they deserve it. Their kids are in expensive activities, music lessons, organized sports, tutoring. The bigger house needs more furniture, more decoration, more maintenance, more services. And when you add it all up, their fixed expenses are 95% or more of their net income. Here's the crazy part. This person making $100,000 has less financial margin than the person from 30 years ago making $50,000. They're living closer to the edge. They're one layoff, one medical emergency, one unexpected repair closer to financial disaster, and they can't escape. They can't take a job that pays less even if it's better for their mental health. They can't change careers even if they hate it. They can't reduce their hours even if they're burned out. They can't quit even if their boss is a tyrant. because they have a $2,500 mortgage, $1,200 in car payments, and another $3,000 in monthly fixed expenses that can't disappear. The handcuffs are locked, the trap is activated. Now you might be thinking, Mike, this doesn't apply to me. I'm smart with my money. I didn't let my expenses grow with my income. And look, maybe you're the exception. But let me show you the math of what actually happens when you get a raise. And I want you to be honest with yourself about whether this applies to your situation. Let's say you get a $20,000 raise per year. You go from $60,000 to $80,000. It feels incredible, right? $20,000 extra. That should change your life. Let's see what actually happens to that $20,000. First, taxes. Because of how progressive tax brackets work, that additional income gets taxed at a higher marginal rate than your base income. Depending on your country and state, the effective rate on that additional income could be 30 to 40% or more when you factor in federal tax, state tax, and Social Security contributions. So that $20,000 immediately becomes something like $12,000 or $13,000 in actual money you get to see. But wait, there's more. You decide that now that you're earning more, you deserve to live better. It's natural. You've worked hard. You earned this raise. So you move to a slightly better apartment. The rent goes up $400 a month. That's $4,800 a year. Your $20,000 is now $8,000. You buy a newer car because the old one has too many miles and now you can afford it. The car payment goes up $300 a month. That's $3,600 a year. You're down to $4,400. You start eating at better restaurants because you don't have to worry so much about money anymore. You spend $200 extra per month on food. That's $2,400 a year. You're down to $2,000. You join a better gym, $100 a month. $1,200 a year. You're down to $800. You upgrade your phone, computer, start buying slightly better clothes. Take a couple extra trips because you deserve it, and just like that, in less than 6 months, your monthly expenses have grown to completely consume your $20,000 raise. In fact, you've probably spent more because your expectations also increased, your standards, your definition of normal, and here's the psychological trap. Because the big numbers look good because you see that $80,000 on your tax return, you feel like you should be doing well financially. You make spending decisions based on that $80,000, you qualify for bigger loans. Credit cards with higher limits, more expensive rents. The bank looks at your income and says, yes, you can afford this $2,000 a month rent, and technically you can. As long as that income keeps flowing forever. As long as you don't get laid off, don't get sick, don't burn out, don't need to take care of your parents, don't have any of the 1,000 unexpected events that humans face. This is where the trap snaps shut, and it's the part that research has really shown. The person earning less but keeping their expenses low has something you don't have: financial flexibility. If they lose their job, they can find another similar one quickly. If they hate their job, they can quit and look for something better. If they want to start a business, they can afford to earn less temporarily. They have margin, they have resilience, you've already played that card. Your income is already fully committed to your monthly expenses. There's no backup plan, there's no reserve income to activate. If you lose your job, get sick, or can't work for any reason, you don't just lose the income, you often can't maintain your fixed costs even temporarily, because those costs were sized for your high income. That's why a 2022 study found that 58% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And many of them earn over $100,000 a year. They're not broke because they don't earn enough. They're broke because their expenses expanded to consume every dollar of their earnings. And they're one layoff away from a financial crisis, and here's what really gets me. The expenses that consumed your raise weren't luxury expenses. They weren't yachts and extravagant vacations and frivolous spending, at least not primarily. They were housing and transportation and food and the things you felt you deserved after working so hard. They were the fixed costs of participating in the upper middle class. Look at housing specifically, because this is where the bidding war effect becomes clear. When everyone earns more, everyone has more purchasing power for the same properties. What do you think happened to prices? They went up, way up. If everyone has higher incomes, then higher incomes become the baseline requirement. And suddenly, you need to earn more just to afford what a lower income used to buy. It's like an arms race where everyone escalated and nobody won. The same thing happened with cars, with technology, with clothing, with everything. The normal standard of living for someone making $100,000 today is dramatically more expensive than the normal standard of living for someone making $50,000 30 years ago. Adjusted for inflation, you're not living twice as well. You're living the same or worse, but spending twice as much. And once you're locked into that mortgage, into those car payments, into that lifestyle, you're locked into needing that high income forever. You can't go down. You can't go back to earning less. The trap is closed. Now you might be thinking, oh, Mike, but what am I supposed to do? I can't just turn down raises. I need to earn more to survive. And I hear you. That's exactly the point of the trap. You need to earn more to survive the lifestyle you built around earning more. But here's the mindset shift that changes everything. You need to start treating every raise as if it were invisible. Here's what I mean. Most people do the opposite. They treat every raise as new permanent income. And they build their fixed costs accordingly. They buy the house their new income can afford. They lease the cars their new income can support. They upgrade their lifestyle to match their new income level. And then they're stuck. They've built a life that requires that high income to function. Which means they can never stop working, even if they want to, even if life circumstances make it necessary. The alternative approach is what I call the frozen lifestyle. You structure your fixed costs, your non-negotiable monthly expenses, so they can be covered by your base income from 2 to 3 years ago. Every raise, every bonus, every additional income becomes completely discretionary. Savings, investments, debt payoff, or yes, some lifestyle improvement. But the critical difference is that you could survive without it. You'd have to cut back, sure, life wouldn't be as comfortable. But you wouldn't lose your house. You wouldn't go bankrupt. You'd have the margin that high earners have lost. Let me make this concrete. Let's say you earn $70,000 a year. You get a raise to $90,000. Instead of immediately moving to a more expensive place, buying yourself a new car and upgrading your lifestyle, you keep exactly the same level of expenses you had with $70,000. That additional $20,000 after taxes, let's say $13,000 net, goes straight into building wealth. Emergency fund first, 6 months of expenses. Then retirement accounts, then stock market investments. Every dollar you invest is buying back optionality. It's buying the flexibility to quit if your job becomes toxic, to take a sabbatical year if you need it, to handle a health crisis, to be present for your aging parents. To actually have a choice, this requires short-term sacrifice. It means driving past nice houses you could technically afford. It means explaining to friends why you're not upgrading your lifestyle even though you got a raise. It means resisting the social pressure to spend like someone making $90,000 because you're building like someone making $70,000. But here's the payoff. Within 5 to 10 years of this approach, something magical happens. The investments you made with those raises start generating their own income. Compound interest takes over, and suddenly, you actually have what you thought high income would give you in the first place: genuine financial security. You're no longer one layoff away from crisis. You're building wealth instead of barely surviving. You can make decisions based on what's best for you and your family instead of what's necessary to make the mortgage payment. I want to leave you with one final thought because I think it reframes this whole conversation. The golden handcuffs trap isn't really about money. It's about flexibility. It's about margin. It's about having options. Our parents with lower incomes had something we've lost: the ability to absorb a shock, to change direction, to take career risks without the whole financial structure collapsing. We traded that flexibility for bigger houses, nicer cars, and the appearance of prosperity. But appearances aren't wealth. Cash flow isn't security. And a high income isn't better than a low income if it's already spent before it arrives. The people who thrive financially in the modern economy aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who preserve their flexibility, who've refused to let their expenses expand to consume their income, who've kept their backup plan in reserve instead of deploying it just to keep up. You can earn your way out of a lot of problems, but you can't earn your way out of a trap you don't even know exists. Now you know. The question is, what are you going to do about it? If this video helped you see your finances differently, Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more content that challenges how you think about money. See you in the next video.